Hi, and welcome to the Scenic Route podcast. This is the show for building a successful and sustainable business on your terms. My name is Jen, and I'm a rebranding sociologist with a soft spot for rhubarb pie. Each week, I'll strive to expand your branding, business expertise, and mindset capacity. I'm so excited you're here, and now let's get into today's episode. Lauren Best is a business designer and certified hypnotherapist, supporting solopreneurs who are ready to scale up their service-based businesses with more ease and flow. This might mean designing the ways they structure their work and systems, how they embrace their superpowers, or how they pivot into a new service offering, and the foundations they can create to prioritize the ways in which they want to spend their time and energy. She uses a mixed approach that combines her expertise of both business design thinking and upgrading mindset through hypnosis, and has designed her own business in a way that empowers her to leave behind the hustle mentality. So, Lauren, hi. Thank you so much for being on a Scenic Route podcast.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I can't wait to get into things.
Yay! Yeah, I love what we're going to do today. We're actually, if you're listening to this, you're going to graduate from the School of Emotions after you've listened to Lauren and I talking about emotions. Tell us the School of Emotions. I know that from myself, right? Sometimes I feel something and I'm it took me a while to really be hey, I don't really remember how that feels like. What is for you kind of the start of kind of getting in touch with your emotions again?
Yeah, I love this question because it was really great. And I do want to mention the conversation we even had before our podcast together was we could have recorded this because, we were really talking about this scenic route that I took and the parallels to what you took. And it all for both of us, and I'm sure for many folks who are listening as well, it started with, yes, I had a business goal in mind of I need to figure out some sort of new job or work or business, but it was my journey of finding myself again. And that started with moving out of autopilot and out of this state of I don't even have time or energy or anything to acknowledge my emotions, to then okay, I need to start discovering my emotions. And when I discovered the emotions wheel, I'm maybe was I showed this in kindergarten? I'm not sure. And why didn't I have this tool with me for my whole life? This could have made my life so much easier, just to know that there's more than 5 or 6 emotions, and there's actually thousands. So it's getting in touch, not only pausing. I think pausing is just a huge part of
slowing
that.
Down. Just
slowing down. Yeah, to really figure out, okay, what is going on in my body? What's going on in my head? How do I feel? Why is
I have to cut in. I love that you say what's going on in my body and what's going on in my head, because for me, usually that's not the same thing. I call my head
totally.
My head, that voice in my head that sometimes goes me. That's Nicole.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when I have a thought coming up, I'm okay, Nicole, thank you for letting yourself known. But it's cool now. You can go back on the back. You can sit, relax on the back seat. I got this.
Yeah, totally.
It's not the same thing. Right. We can what you feel in what your head is telling you feel, and when you actually check into your body what you're feeling, the somatic experience of what you feel does not have to be the same thing.
Totally. And for me, there was so much manifesting in my body, even until recently, for 3 years, there was even just having an appendix surgery, and I'm oh my gosh, this is, to me, I feel was a manifestation of not being in the right environment, not being in a good place mentally, all those things. But through the last few years, it was oh, I have just these pains in my body. Migraines, I've had them here and there, but more than ever before. And it was you can crux a lot of, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm going to mention that, but like I could crux it down to these medical things.
Yeah,
But it was
disclaimer,
like,
please. If you feel sick, go
yeah,
see a doctor. But at the same
yes.
time,
Yeah.
yes.
So for me, I did all that. Like I went to, aside from my appendix, I did all the blood work, all these things. And it was like, they couldn't find anything. It was all like emotional. And for me, it was a lot of hard work, but work that was so worth it to me to get in touch with my emotions, acknowledge my emotions, move through those emotions, sometimes not move through those emotions in the times I didn't feel ready to, and where I needed to focus on something else. So
what were the emotions you didn't feel ready to take on immediately?
I think,
you want to tell me?
I think it comes down to, for me, it was a very long process of not necessarily like, I mean, it took me a long time to build my confidence back over the last few years.
Like confidence in external confidence in visibility and showing up, or in like self-trust and self-awareness?
Both. But I would say the self-trust came a lot sooner, but it was still that piece of like external like biases or external things that were still like, I wasn't ready to totally like put that boundary up. So even though I had that self-trust again,
it was, you still realize it's influencing you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes when you don't put up, that's very woo-woo-y, but if you don't put up like energetic boundaries, you're kind of like a sponge and you take everything up.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I see that. I mean, that it's one of still my big things when people that are close to, when they're like, I don't know, getting nervousness is really bad. If people are around, and most people are like that, right? If you're in a nervous or hectic environment, you realize, if you check in with yourself, you start that you're like getting nervous yourself.
Yeah.
And then it's really important to differentiate, hey, wait a minute, is that actually my emotion? Or is it something that's like from externally has been kind of like, it's seeping through me?
Right. Exactly. So that was like a process of like, you know, and I want to share this with like so much heart, in that, you know, if you're on this journey to like get in touch with your emotions, just rediscover who you are, like not everything is going to happen at once. Like it could for you, but I know for me it didn't. I know for other people in my world it hasn't. It hasn't looked like all the healing comes at once. That's why it's a journey. And, you know, so if you've started off just even like being able to name your emotions, or just like, I'd say like download an emotions wheel and like print it out and just like use that to check in with yourself. There's so many you can just look up, like anyone is great to start with, and just starting there is such a good place.
Yeah. And I love that, because it sounds so simple, but like, who's actually doing it, right? Like, I would love if there actually would be a school of emotions, or at least like a subject in school that's called emotions and feelings and how to deal with it, right? Because as you've said with the appendix, like your body, I mean, medical science knows by now that, and trauma research knows that your body keeps the score. It's actually also a brilliant book. I forgot who wrote it, but it's a brilliant book. The body keeps the score. And also like years and years of dissonance, of if you're living in dissonance with whatever, it can cause quite real medical challenges and issues. So I love that you said, okay, first, like, it's really about graduating from the school of emotions, and really quite simply, exactly, self-aware, and like gain knowledge about emotions, right? Like, what is the full wheel of emotions? What is the full range?
Right.
And like, what do emotions do? I mean, if you're super like a biochemistry nerd and actually like look into what emotions do in your body, I love that you said like start with like checking in and being aware of your emotions, because like it starts with clarity, right? Like any kind of journey, whatever that's like a journey to self-discovery, or actually if you're out there lost in the woods, any journey starts with actually figuring out where the fuck you are.
Yeah,
right? Like, I
totally.
mean, if you don't know like which direction to walk to, start figuring out where the North Star is or whatever, where the sun goes up and
Yeah.
down. So you have some
Yeah.
kind of idea. And the same goes for self-development, business. Start where you are, like maybe where you
Hmm.
want to go and see how you can bridge it.
Yeah.
It sounds so simple, but it's always, I don't know, I feel like with my clients, it's something sometimes they skip over that because
Right.
usually when you see a coach or you work with someone external, you do that because something is not quite the way you want it.
Right.
So looking at what is the current state is
Hmm.
usually involved with some level of pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember
And
there were loads of
fear and
times, yeah,
yeah.
there were loads of times where it was like a shitty feeling to actually acknowledge where I am at. And we're like,
Hmm.
no, ugh, this
Yeah.
is uncomfortable. I wanna like, I don't know if you do it if you have anything to do with enneagrams, but I'm a 7,
Yeah.
so I'm like,
Yeah.
no, no, uncomfortable, no, no, just no, not having this. And I was like, no, I gotta learn to sit with also like the unpleasant, icky thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, we just named right now, like shared out fearful. And then
Yeah,
what kind of fear, right? Like I'm looking at my
yeah,
emotions wheel now. Is it scared, anxious, insecure,
mm,
weak, rejected,
yeah,
or
oh, yeah,
threatened? Because those are similar emotions, but they're all very different and they make us feel
yes,
differently. They
mm,
manifest differently in our bodies. And like, if you can check in, some people are so logical, right? And they're going to like
mm,
notice how they feel with certain emotions, perhaps in their head. And for other people, it might start in their body. It might
yeah,
have a different feeling in their body depending on their emotion as well. So,
mm,
everyone is going to be so different, just like anyone's journey is going to look different.
yeah. And I feel we can all like differentiate between like, oh, I feel good or I feel bad. I feel hate or I
Right.
feel love, right? Like, but the nuances, that's where it's kind of like get interesting. And I love that you've
Mm-hmm.
said maybe checking in and realizing, hey, because sometimes the head is clouding over, right? And
Yeah.
maybe if you know from your experience, hey, something like regret is
Mm,
stored in a slightly different place. I'm just saying something
yes.
in like my mid lower belly, and like
Right.
another close emotion is stored more central. Like it could help you being sure of what your body is actually trying to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
I
Absolutely.
love that.
Yeah. There's so much.
Yeah, it's actually, yeah. I mean, and like what you said, like it's really the start of the journey to kind of like reconnect with it. So we
Yeah.
said, okay, if you want to get started on this journey, you'll really be like, okay, slowing down. And even if you think you've slow down more.
Right. Totally. Like I want to share. I thought I was like a few weeks ago, I was like, or a few months now, like my nervous system feels the most regulated it has in years, probably
Yes.
like before my burnout even, which
Yeah.
happened like 3 years ago now, or 2 years ago now. I don't know, 2.5 years. And I was feeling like so good. Like I'd finally gotten to a place where I think I was like, instead of being at negative, I was kind of like at zero, which is so empowering in itself
That's
when you've,
beautiful. Yes.
yeah.
Yes. It's a different experience. Yes.
Oh,
It's beautiful.
totally. And it
Mm-hmm.
was like really cool. And then, I got COVID and then I got a cold and all these things just knocked me on my butt. I
Mm.
had to just lie around for like a month. I did things, but I was like, okay, no, I actually
Mm-hmm.
need to do less because I could push through and do more things. But like, I actually really value my body, my health. I am worth resting. Like, my life is worth resting this month of my life, whatever. So it was
Yes.
like, okay, I was gearing up. I had so much momentum going on in my business for like the first time ever, probably the amount of momentum I had and just connections and all these things. And then it was like, pause. It was like, oh, okay, I need
Mm.
to just listen to my body because if I
Yes.
don't, then like my energy is not sustainable right now, and it's not going to be by
Yes.
doing things. And so it was like, okay. And, you know, that's the ebbs and flows. And like to listen to that just is so powerful. And like, I just want to say to everyone, like, you are worthy of rest, because that's something it took me a long time to realize that, because for me, it came down to self-worth, I think,
of not taking enough rest, or
and just also being conditioned by the people around me who had more energy, right? So it was like, I now have, and it took a long time to say like, no, I have these boundaries with myself too, that like, if my body's telling me to rest, or even before my body tells me to rest, I need to rest. So
yeah, that's the thing, right? Like if that's the same, if I once read that like from a nutritionist, like he said, the moment you feel thirsty, you should have had water ages ago.
Yes, I'm gonna have a sip of water right now.
Yeah, because that first feeling, it's coming rather late to really be like, oh shit, right? Like, and it's the same. Like you should have already done it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's like those things, and that self-care, like being able to pause more for that is like going to, if you're someone who has energy that really ebbs and flows like me, that will help you like build these habits of like nurturing yourself and taking care of yourself and being preventative. I mean, not always preventative. Like I said, you know, it's hard, but you can. Yeah, absolutely.
Or being aware that if you have to move in an environment for a while that's not supporting that, to be aware of that and maybe put on some extra protection. Like
exactly.
Or after, like in between or after extra rest periods or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And for me, that's like my mindset practice, and like, you know, having that connection to my subconscious mind and really doing the mindset work that feels good for me, because there are so many types, there's so many mindset practices that you can do. And like, it's, you know, if someone tells you they meditate every single day for 20 minutes and like, you've tried it and it's not you, like that's totally cool. Like try something else, because there's something for everyone. You can create your own practice. And
yes, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, so like, even
if you don't get anything out of journaling, leave voice memos to yourself or whatever. Like
totally, like there's so many different ways. Or if you need someone,
what works for you?
Yeah, I think for me, a big thing I've realized over the last few years is that I have some practices I do on my own, but I want to start with like the space that other people hold for me. I think that has become really important. Like I work with my hypnotherapist once or twice a month, and I even attend like a lot of group online workshops. Like that's something that really connects me and
like fills up your cup as well.
Fills up my cup. Absolutely. Because I love learning new things. So that's also like a way for me to come with no expectation, get out of my head, and like turn off my critical mind and just like let things flow.
I like that.
Yeah. And I do like an affirmations practice, and I do that before bed by handwriting those affirmations. And I don't do that all the time, but it, you know, I listen to my custom hypnosis audio. Also, I love this. I started doing it this year, is I write down like little milestones or like little and big things that I'm really proud of. So like if I, you know, had someone download a hypnosis audio of mine, or if I, you know, connect with a really cool person or have a new collaboration or sign another client or whatever it is,
You're
I
on
write
the CD Root podcast.
Yeah, that's going to be written down for real. So I write all those things down on these little pieces of paper, and I throw them in this beautiful ceramic this like jar that I wanted for years. And then I eventually like was able to buy one and afford one. So it goes in this very special vessel, and I put the dates and everything. And then if I'm like not feeling so hot one day, I'll go in there, I'll pick something out and I'll read it.
Ooh.
And it's just like, it just brings back that feeling for me of how I felt
it's kind of like
when
a wishing
yeah,
vessel 2.0 or something. I love
exactly.
that. Yeah.
So I love that. And I tend also on New Year's Eve to read them all, move them to a new vessel, and then start again. But so that's a new practice for me that, I wish I did my whole life, but I haven't, but I just love it. I think it makes me feel really good.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, the best day to start something like that would have been yesterday, and the next best moment is now. So
you can start today. You can even go
yeah.
back in your week or your calendar. Sometimes I do that, and I'm like, what happened this week, right? Because there's something you can find to celebrate, no matter what your week looks like, right? So.
Yes.
Even if it's just, getting outside for that walk, like that you've been saying you wanted to for days or weeks or whatever, right?
Yeah, so. and make it, sometimes you just have to make it smaller. Like,
yes,
sometimes you don't have to hike for 8 hours.
No.
Maybe just like literally 5 minutes in the park will do the trick, right? I love how you said like that, that the work is oftentimes when we deal with emotions or trauma and go through the school of emotions, it's not conscious work. It's subconscious work.
Oh, like,
to really be like, there's not something you cannot really dissecting. It's, I mean, your emotions and are in your limbic brain. It's not accessible through logic. There are different rules, different rule book. It's just like, nope. So right. I love, like, as a hypnotherapist, like, work me through some of the like subconscious practices or tools like you work with during hypnotherapy, because I feel that's such a good way to get into the unconscious mind and just give me some idea how that looks like. I've never done it, so I'm just curious.
Yeah. So like, something to share as well is like the negativity bias, which is that.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. So like, for every single negative emotion, we need at least 3 times as many positive emotions to like overcome that negative 1 to 3 emotion.
That's crazy.
Right.
That's crazy.
So, if you go through this process of, identifying your emotion and then coming up with like 3 emotions that you would like to feel instead of that negative emotion, like, it can be a long process. And not to say that approach doesn't work, but it can take a lot of time. And so for me, like, finding hypnosis was this like amazing tool that just seemed to work so much quicker for me. And now that I'm certified and working with clients as well, on the other end, I see, such beautiful growth. But it's really that ability, because when we're identifying these negative emotions and the positive emotions we want to experience instead, that's coming from our critical mind, which is actually mostly always at the forefront, but it's such a small part of our brain, actually. Like, what's below the conscious mind and the critical mind is our unconscious mind, our subconscious mind.
Very loud voices.
Yeah. So if we can get past those loud voices like that live in our critical mind and connect to that subconscious mind, that's where we can really make bring more clarity, I guess, identify more of our emotions, like what's instinctively happening and what lives in our subconscious mind, without our loud voices clouding that part of our brains and our minds. And also just being able to surpass that. And like, through hypnosis, it's really just like a very deep state of relaxation where we can turn off that critical mind, connect to our subconscious mind, and really discover what's there, like whether there's blocks that are existing, maybe there's stories that are an expansion of that negative emotion that are like, the first time you ever experience that emotion and why it's so strong and why it's something that, you feel quite often or that's triggering for you. And we can really like often discover what those stories were and rewrite them and understand them. And again, replace them with the positive emotion that you want. But in hypnosis, it's really programmed into our subconscious mind, which is, a driver for a lot of the things we do. Yeah. So then that in turn, brings our critical minds to this place where it's really supported by this subconscious mind in the ways you want, because there's
Yeah.
so many ways our subconscious mind support us, and not always in the ways that we really want and that really align with, our hearts and where we want to go and how we want to feel about ourselves. And
Yeah, it's surely to sort of give a little direction in a gentle way,
yeah,
like nudge, nudge,
exactly.
nudge, nudge. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. And especially what you've said about like the stories, right? Like how emotions are kind of like, I don't know, a sideboard with a lot of drawers, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yes. That's a great analogy. I love that.
Okay, good. I was like, does it make sense? Do I sound like I'm selling
Yes.
IKEA furniture? Okay. So the way I kind of like learn to understand it is emotions is kind of like that sideboard with a lot of different drawers, and they're like labeled anger, resentment, fear, and so on.
Right.
And the interesting thing is, right, it's kind of like a Pandora's box. If one event triggers you to open a certain drawer, maybe the resentment drawer or something, and or the not feeling, let's take not feeling good enough. That's a nice one because everyone's like, yeah, cut that drawer, it's a big one.
Oh yeah. And I can share my story with that too, because that was my big one. Ooh. That I had to connect back to. And yeah.
So you're actually kind of like first have to realize, okay, which drawer is actually pulled open. Okay, so it's not feeling good enough. And the interesting thing, what reminded me when he said stories, is as soon as this like drawer is getting pulled open, all the stories, old shit stories that happened 20 years ago are like are coming doop, 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 are bubbling up, and suddenly like something right now happened, you feel not worthy enough, and then you suddenly remembered that incident back in high school when you felt like not worthy enough, or like that time as a kid, or that time when you were 21, right? Like it was like, and you're like, wait, no, like go back into that shitty drawer. Like
that's exactly what we do in hypnosis as well, is like we, if that's something that you're ready to connect with, we bring you within your subconscious mind basically into a room that has either, it could be drawers with different like movies playing in the drawers, or it could be different books or screens or a videotape or whatever it is, whatever emotion that you're wanting to connect with. And then, visualizing, okay, and connecting back to what was that event that really the first time I ever felt that way. And for me, this feeling of not good enough came from something as simple as a child. And I had a really great childhood. But this moment where my parents or I think my dad was talking to my uncle or something like that. I can't remember it perfectly, of course. I think I was like 7 years old or something, but I don't remember what I wanted to share with them, but it was something very important and like felt urgent to me. Whether it was like that important or not, at the moment, it was so important to me. And I remember like tugging on someone's sleeve and being like, I have something to tell you. I want to tell you. And then being told, okay, like just don't interrupt. We're having a conversation. Like you'll have to wait. And that feeling of like, okay, am I not good enough like for you to hear what I have to say right now? And, it was something that simple that then repeated in different ways throughout my life that told me again that I wasn't good enough to either share what I had to say, whether it wasn't, something that I was good enough to say, or I did say something and someone dismissed it, like just that
feeling of not being heard and or not being seen, invisibility.
Totally. And so like I worked through that, like through hypnosis. I've done EMDR for that same feeling as well. And like there was a really big event that happened in my life the beginning of this year, and like I did not have that feeling, when in the past that would have been the most overwhelming thing. So like it just showed me, wow, I've done a lot of work for a while. I didn't know if anything was really happening. Like
that's the thing, right? Like it's often like a lot of teeny tiny steps done continuously. Until like the work you do behind, like the work you do in your business, and suddenly it looks like you're an overnight success with you're not, but it looks like that, right? And the same is you suddenly had one big event. Do you want to share with me what that big event was?
It was just like someone in my life who was a really constant in my life who wasn't there anymore and like disappeared. And, like it was one of those things where it's like, oh, it's very sad. There's different emotions I could probably um, like look at.
Of course, you can still feel other emotions about it, right? Like that's completely fine.
But it wasn't about me. Yes. Exactly. Yes. So I think that's, even if you're doing different work like hypnosis or EMDR or just like different cognitive practices, whatever it is, if you don't see results happening overnight, like that's also okay. And doing the work and having that repetition, like eventually it's people are on different like levels of quickness as well. And that's what I've noticed about me. I need longer to like, set with things and settle in and even just like let things integrate. So, some people are really quick, some people aren't, and that's totally fine.
Just know it for yourself, right? So okay, like I have to sit with this a bit longer.
If you can find that self-trust again to just know like things are going to happen when they're going to happen, and I'm going to be where I need to be any given time, and feel that self-trust within yourself, like that was also life-changing for me, just trusting myself. And that took a long time as well, but it's something that is, if you're not in that place yet, if there's people who aren't in that place, like you can do it. Like you will, if you want it, you will find your way back to yourself and find that trust and that intuition, and it'll come. It's still there within you. And sometimes we just need to make it safe enough for it to come out again. So I love that. Like it's still there. Slow down, make yourself feel safe enough, and like be in there for like the curiosity and like the journey of discovery, right? Like it's we often feel like, oh, okay, I know I have to deal with this shit. Okay, I'm gonna book someone to help me solve this problem, right? And you go see, I don't know, hypnotherapist and like, please solve this problem for me. And they're like, if they're good, they're telling you, well, I can help you solve it yourself, but you have to actually do the work. Exactly.
And then kind of like, we have this weird expectation of like, okay, I'm going to see Laura for 10 sessions. And after 10 sessions, this shit is healed or else.
Exactly. And it's not like that.
It's not like getting better or healing or what, or any kind of development or business or success. It's not linear.
Yeah.
It's not following mathematical rules of linearity. It just doesn't.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it makes me think of like, in hypnosis, we visualize like bit like actual doors that you walk through to access different, whether it's different parts of your subconscious mind or just different like environments. And I think life is about that too. Like for me, I've talked about this for so long, but until recently have I really like seen it in my life, is that like when we do slow down and take the time to like be curious and be open to new possibility, like new doors are going to appear and open that you never imagined before. So it, that happens in hypnosis and real life.
Yeah, because you don't know all the doors there are.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's cool. Like I love the idea of new doors appearing, new paths. Like that's another part, like, all these things that we talk about in life of like, even the scenic route of, finding these different paths and like different staircases or doors or different experiencing different things. It's like paralleled in hypnosis. It's like not fast tracking that experience, but living that part of that experience within your mind,
and
which
is
so
where
powerful.
It kind of wanders and see where it goes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's so cool.
I love that. And I love that, like to really be like introduce more curiosity and more play and just be like, hey, let's see where it goes. And kind of like releasing the expectation.
Right. Exactly.
I can really see you listening and eye rolling at me. But I mean, it's like, yeah, sure, it's easy to release expectations if like blah, 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 blah. But it's not tied to an if then condition.
Right.
It's really just being there for the journey of it and not necessarily for the outcome, because you cannot control the outcome. The outcome will be whatever the outcome's going to be.
Yeah.
Right.
And it can be what you want, or it could be even better, or that what you want or even better might not happen as quick as you want it to, but there's still that possibility that it's going to happen in whatever way. And it's going to look like whatever it's going to look like. So,
and it's good however it's gonna look like.
Exactly. I think like doing that, like I love how you brought up playfulness. I know we've been like more serious talking about like emotions and stuff, but like playfulness is such a good way to just reconnect to yourself and like that inner child. I love inner child work, and I do it with all my clients. I do it for myself, and like anytime now when I'm just like, because I ride my bike quite a bit or go for walks quite a bit. And anytime I see a play structure with a swing, even if I'm like, oh, do I really need to? I get on that swing. I love it's just like, who is not happy?
It's like water slides. I gotta go.
Yeah. So like, what's your thing? Like whether it's, I don't know, collecting rocks on your walk or going on that swing or slide or whatever, or dancing. Like that's something I don't know, for years, I'm like, why wasn't I just dancing in my room? Like, I love that. So, you know, it's those little things. What is it that you love? What would your inner child never say no to? And do that. Like, find opportunities to do that, whether it's like brushing your teeth and dancing or whatever that looks like for you. You know, just you can ask yourself, like, what gift can I give to my inner child that would just make them so happy? Because that you still are your inner child. We just, you know,
oh god yes
we just lose them sometimes, just like our intuition and our self-trust,
but they're still there.
So they're still there. Exactly.
I love those, such uplifting words. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you.
Hey, listen, always at the end of our conversation, I always got to ask one question people don't expect or don't know about. And it's kind of like, what book are you currently reading? Because I'm just so fucking curious.
Oh gosh, this is really funny because I'm at my grandparents' house and they're downsizing. And so we've been going through, we last night went through all of the books that they have, and I'm not reading them yet, but I thought I took them, and I'm like, this is so funny.
Oh yeah, I love that.
And so there's 3 books that I took, and they were actually like free books from Esso, like the gas station, the gas company.
Yeah.
And one of them is like family astrology. I'm like, oh, that's woo for Esso. Another one is like is like modern magic or witchcraft, like easy witchcraft.
Yeah. So okay, like, still a bit out there for Esso. I love
it. And another one is like something about emotions, like almost like a little school book of emotions. I'm sure there's everything about emotional intelligence and naming different emotions and all of that. And I just thought, I think they're from like, I don't know if they're from the 70s or 80s or whatever, but I'm like, how is it that these were given out at a gas station for free to like the public? And now some of these topics they're brought up. There's so many people who are so like, they think it's, you know, so out of their scope of like rational thinking, you know? I just thought it was really funny. That's so funny. I took those. I can't wait to read them. I can't wait to like see what's in them. That's going to be my next little reads.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really good.
But other than that, I'm also reading, and I'm probably going to get the name wrong, but it's like How to Do Nothing. I think that's what it's called. And it's just, How to Do Nothing, Resisting the Attention Economy by Jenny Odell. So I
like the title.
That. Yeah. And it's really like it's like, I think she was a Stanford, or maybe still is, a professor there. And it just looks at like, what are the possibilities that could happen when we do nothing, and how to do nothing.
Yeah. And especially how to do nothing. Yeah. I like
and how to change your place in the world. Like, you know, how it's really like, she describes it as an action plan for thinking outside of, you know, capitalist narratives and efficiency and determinism and all of that. So yeah, I'm excited. I've cracked the first chapter and can't wait to see what it holds.
That's brilliant. Okay, so Lauren, to wrap us up, tell us where we can find you online, where you hang out the most, and what little treat you got in store for us.
Yeah, so I of course, have all the social platforms, but you will find me reaching out the most on my newsletter. So you can find that on my website. You can subscribe to that at lauren-best.com. It'll pop up at you. You can find it at the bottom of the website as well. I also host monthly group hypnosis sessions, which are donations based. So you can also find that on my website, or you can type in lauren-best.com/group/hypnosis/sessions.
It's all gonna be linked in the show notes. So don't worry.
Yeah. So join for one of those if you haven't tried hypnosis before. As well, I'm sharing a free hypnosis audio that will help you connect back to your dreams and just get in touch with what you desire most. So check that out as well.
Yeah, I love that. I'm sure I'm heading to the landing page right now as we speak.
Beautiful.
I love that so much. No, definitely want to try that. I mean, it's always something new to discover. So, hey, Lauren, thank you so much for being on the Scenic Route with me. It was a blast. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I've had so much fun.
Thank you so much for listening to the Scenic Route podcast. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode and that you can take something from it that feels right to you. I'd be so grateful if you could share the Scenic Route podcast. As always, you can head over to scenicroutepodcast.com to check out all the links and resources from today's episode. Oh, and while you're there, don't forget to download my free email course, Intuitive Branding Invitation, to teach you how you can successfully tune into your own brand frequency and rediscover your brand's unique gifts, strengths, and talents. So thanks again. Talk soon.